it's not just, just marketing NFTs, it's also just I understand NFTs myself, so I actually want to profit from it.
Welcome back to the Mindvalley podcast, folks. Today, we're going to be talking about NFTs. I'm going to share why we need to be paying attention to NFTs, but I'm also going to share a couple of cautionary tales, including a big mistake I made. I want to be really vulnerable here. And our guest today is one of the most brilliant minds in the field of NFTs. So today, we're going to be discussing some really interesting things. What are NFTs? And here, we're assuming you have a basic understanding of it because they've been all over the news the past 1 year. But we're going to go deeper into how to understand if you should be dabbling in NFTs, whether as an investor, as an art buyer, as someone buying an NFT because of the utility it gives you. And we're also going to share some case studies on how you can use NFTs for everything from raising funds for a charity to actually raising money for your business. There's going to be some interesting case studies here. The intent of this podcast is not to give you more or less try to talk you into an investment opportunity or tell you where to put your money. Rather, we're talking about NFTs here as a tool, not as something speculative. Because if you've been paying attention, on the day we're recording this podcast right now, Bitcoin hit a massive low. People have lost billions of dollars. Bitcoin was 57K almost 18 months ago, and now it's 20,000, right? A lot of people lost a lot of money. So we're going to talk about the difference between cryptocurrencies and NFTs, if you're not aware, and why, while there is risk in the crypto market, NFTs are a different beast. They actually serve a really unique purpose. And if you can understand what NFTs represent, you start to open your eyes to whole new ways of doing marketing, running a business, building community, fundraising, and even how the web is evolving into Web3. So our guest today is Arvin Khamseh. Arvin has worked on hundreds of NFT projects, over 400 NFT brands he's consulted with. And his agency has had partnerships with Reddit, Twitter, Quora, and Meta. His two largest NFT projects, Sands Vegas Casino Club and Meta Legends, both sold out. The Sands project made 5 million in 20 hours. The Meta project made an astonishing 10 million in 20 hours. He also helped Women of Crypto hit #1 on IC Tools and OpenSea. So he knows this world, he understands this world. And today we're going to be going into a fascinating conversation with Arvin on the field of NFTs and what it means to you. So Arvin, welcome to the Mindvalley podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So firstly, how did you get fascinated by NFTs? How did you get into this industry?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I was trading cards, like soccer cards. And so I got the concept. As soon as I saw the Cyberpunks especially and NBA Top Shots, I realized there's something to this. I can see it has like real life values, and like people have been collecting things. Like the collectibles industry, that's not new at all. Have been around for a long time. In fact, I actually read somewhere last night that even the first NFT wasn't even Cyberpunk back in 2017. Someone else actually came up with an NFT a few years before that, and then for some reason no one talks about it. But then there was an interview like somewhere that was found, and this guy he actually came up with the first NFT before everyone.
Do you remember
else.
what that NFT was about?
No, I actually just started reading about it last night, and
I think it may be Homer Pepe. So Homer Pepe. Yeah. So Pepe is a meme. He's a frog. And so one of my literally Peter Kell, who is a Mindvalley partner. He actually lives below me here in Estonia. He was at a workshop on NFTs, I think in 2015 or 2016, and there was this digital card for sale. It was called Homer Pepe. So it was a picture of that meme frog Pepe. It had an association with Homer Simpson, and there was an error in the card. Minute was spelled M-I-N. Well, the word minute was spelled wrong. And so this digital card was being sold as a collectible, and Peter bid $29,000 and he bought it. And his friends told him, "You're such an idiot. Absolute idiot. He then tried to sell it. No one would buy it from him. And he thought, all right, I guess I am an idiot. Last year, Peter sold that same card for $250,000. That's a pretty good ROI, right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
So that was one of the first NFT sales. But can you imagine someone paying $250,000 for a digital collectible card?
100%. It's fascinating. So I actually started with trading myself. I didn't even know what NFTs are, and I got into trading. Like I remember even my sister. So she was working. So she was at the time she was 19-year-old, and she was working at a retail store. Going part-time college and part-time working, making $1,000 a month at this like part-time retail store. And then she got into NFTs, and then second month in, she made 20K in a month. And then I was like, whoa, like this is very different. So this Web3 space is very different to everything I've seen before. And like some of the NFTs that I actually traded myself, if anyone is familiar, like Alien Friend, I was buying them for about $500, and then I would sell them for about 10K. Now, of course, the price for them and so many other NFTs have dropped significantly, as you alluded to earlier on. Even Bored Apes and like blue chip collections, they're very low, which is good for some people if they want to just support the artist and they've never been able to, and it's also just if they want to get into blue chip collections they've never been able to, with now it's like at a discounted price. But yeah, that's how I got into it as well. Like I started actually trading first, and then I realized at some point I said, oh wow, so this is very interesting. And I've at the time I was working with public companies doing their investor relationship marketing, and then I could see how there's a huge similarity between how NFT pages are set up and then also like an investor deck. And then so I thought about it and I was like, okay, so I'm actually gonna do this as an example. I did it for some artists in Italy back in 2021, and then he sold out his collection. And then that was like a proof of concept for me, where I thought, okay, so everything I learned in investor relationship marketing with public companies is actually relevant. I can apply it to this. And then I started working with 100 brands that month, and then 100 brands another month, and so on and so forth.
That's amazing, and yeah. It's been a wild ride. The last year has been crazy for NFTs. Yeah. So Gary Vaynerchuk launched something called VeeFriends, yeah. And Gary, something I really respect about Gary is he jumps on every new social media trend and then masters it, right? Whether it's TikTok and in this case NFTs. And Gary said something really interesting. He's like, when something new emerges, what I'm going to encourage you to do is to just, like block out 50 hours and go really deep, because you're going to get an advantage over everyone else. And that's what Gary did. He blocked out 50 hours. He looked at the NFT market and he thought, wow, I could do something here. And so he launched VeeFriends, and I believe he sold $250 million worth of VeeFriends collectible cards. And the story doesn't end there. So when you sell an NFT, you can allocate 10% as like as a transaction fee that goes. So somebody who buys your collectible card, if they sell it to someone else, you can get 10% of that sale, right? What is that called?
Royalties. Yeah.
So in the interview, I remember Gary saying that on a good night, he will make $250,000 in his sleep from royalties. He said, VeeFriends was my IPO. Everything I've done led to this. VeeFriends was my IPO. So really interesting nature there. No matter what you want to say about NFTs, there is a lot of money being made. And now what we are starting to see as the bubble has collapsed, because NFT prices are down 92% from their peak. As the bubble has collapsed, now you're starting to actually see some really cool, real utility of NFTs. What are your thoughts, Arvin? How would you explain NFTs to someone? And what would be your advice around this industry?
Yeah, so great. And by the way, I do own one of Gary's NFTs, the Grateful Tuna. So I actually like his project. I like what he does. He's talking about the NFTs as well. And that's one of the reasons. I just know his grit. I know his just his motivation behind doing things online, and that's one of the reasons I actually support him. So the NFTs are non-fungible tokens, meaning they not they cannot be duplicated, which is different to a fungible token. So Bitcoin, or dollar, like a banknote that you would have, that's a fungible token. So if I give you a banknote and you give it back to me, like another dollar, it's the same thing. It's just $1. Versus NFT, there's only one version of it. They cannot be duplicated. And so it could be a form of an audio. It could be in the form of a video, an image. In fact, like last year, I can talk about the evolution of that, but like last year we had all sorts of animals, profile pictures of NFTs. This year that has changed. So we're now going away from that. And so anyways, it could be a form of an audio, video, and it's stored on the blockchain of things. So now majority of NFTs were also on the Ethereum blockchain. That's how it started. But now we have them on, Solana and other platforms like Polygon, other platforms as well. I would say it's probably the two major blockchains are Solana and Ethereum. And then we have like Polygon and a bunch of other ones as well. So not so much. And then just so people have some ideas about, like, just on Ethereum, there are about 80,000 collections, and then that went up from 40,000 so last year. So it's going up. Beginning of this year, we got to a point where we were getting like 500 new collections every day entering the market. And so that's good, but also that changed things. And I actually got to observe that. So for example, back in November 2021, all we had to do for selling out of NFT project was just building a huge community, and then 30% of those people would buy the NFTs. So I used to even tell people, say, hey, build a Discord of, let's say 3 to 5 times your collection size. So let's say if it was a 10K collection size, we would build a Discord of at least 30 to 50,000 people. 30% of those people would buy the NFTs. That was the end of that. And sold out a lot of projects just like that. It was great. It was very exciting because some of these people that I worked with, not to name, but they never made money online. They've literally, like, this is their first time ever getting into things online, and then in a matter of 4 to 6 weeks, they would make like $5-6 million. Which is, even like for me, who I've been in the marketing industry for almost 10 years, that's something I've never seen before. So that's fascinating. That's why it got me really excited into this. And so that was last year, and I guess this even search inquiries for NFTs back in November last year surpassed like cryptocurrencies. So cryptocurrencies, from 2009 people knowing about them, all of a sudden NFTs just had more searches than the cryptocurrencies. And then what's really interesting, I think, so we had a lot of people from different countries, obviously in the audience, they're listening and interacting right now. It's really different in different countries. So like the number one, as far as the search inquiries for interest on NFTs, is actually right now is actually Singapore. And then there's like China, Hong Kong. So you would think US, because of everything that you see on the media, like Gary Vee, you see like people talking about NFTs, a lot of people are from US, but you would think US is really high up. It's not high up. It's actually the 10th space, like on the top, in the top 10, it's literally the bottom. Plus also it has gone down. It was actually number 8 in the entire world, and then went to 10, which I believe the reason for that is, again, last year was heaven in the NFT world. Everyone was selling out collections. Like I remember this specific brand, Frogos, we sold that in 7 minutes. And all we had as far as utilities was, we just literally one word, we told people we're gonna have some staking and we're gonna have something in the metaverse. That's all it was. And we sold out, and it was like awesome. But this year, this is not the case. And I can tell you like what's working this year as well. But what's really interesting is that a lot of the people who last year got into a lot of different projects, they started talking about, I guess they would, some projects weren't really delivering on their promises. So they started talking about how things are not going so well on Twitter. So, and then that's one of the reasons actually US interest has gone down instead of actually going up. even though more people from US actually getting to know what NFTs are, the interest level as far as like the searches is actually going down. And so, but then again, like I said, like I was speaking at different countries, like for example, Cyprus, different countries, there's a lot of conversation about NFTs and like how that can be incorporated.
Okay, so actually what you're sharing is fascinating, but let's look at some of the counter arguments. So Cecilia, who is live with us in the chat, wrote this comment, and I'd love for you to address this. Cecilia said, there are people that say it is a scam, it is a Ponzi scheme. How can someone defend the NFT world?
Yeah, and I'm really big on, not in an emotional way, but like I'm really big on actually defending NFT world, because I just seen what it has done for a lot of people, including myself. And so there are definitely projects out there that they don't deliver on their promises, right? So we're seeing a lot less of those right now because it's not a shiny object anymore for people. That's like one of the best things that actually happened to this market. A lot of times people would just come in thinking of this as a cash grab project, and they're going to just make a bunch of money and then leave and not really deliver on their promises. But now that has changed because they know it's actually difficult. Like it's not really easy to sell out. So they don't just come in if they don't have a real plan to actually deliver. And in fact, like I'm actually seeing great projects coming out where they're working on their projects for like 2-3 months before even talking about it online, which is really cool. So one of the things is in the Web3 space, which is different to the Web2 space, we're actually accountable for everything ourselves. So we can't really blame people and say, hey, they've done this to us, because we're actually part of the whole, I guess, NFT industry ourselves. So one of the things I would say, first of all, there are lots of projects that they have delivered on their promises. They're still staying all the way on top on the, like, for example, let's say on OpenSea marketplace or any other marketplace. People are still happy with what they're getting. They're continuously talking about how it had changed their life and so on and so forth. And then there are some projects that they didn't, right? So, and again, because I work with so many projects, out of the 400 projects, I got to see 2 Rockpool projects myself. So one of them, the reason they actually, now not to justify what they've done, but the reason they actually didn't deliver on their promises, just because these guys are not really like business savvy people. So they weren't successful with their launch, and they were, the promise was they would deliver on their roadmap if everyone bought their NFTs, and not everyone bought their NFTs, so they couldn't deliver on their promises, and then they started hiding. Now, not the best strategy to do if something is not going your way, but I noticed that the root cause of a lot of problems in the NFT world is actually not having enough resources, not having enough knowledge. So people just don't know. A lot of times they're artists, developers, they're getting into this. They want to get their word to the world for their art, for their project. They're not really business savvy people, and they don't have the resources. Typically they don't have investors, so they're bootstrapping things, and then when they're not successful, they can't deliver on their promises, and then it leaves a really bad impression for people, just calling them a scam.
So I'd love to hear about some of your projects, like the Sands Vegas Casino Club or Meta Legends. Let's talk about Meta Legends. What exactly was that? And how was this project able to generate 10 million in 20 hours?
Yeah, so that's what was true for like all of these projects. Literally what we would do, we would run ads. Now, Meta Legends, there were a lot of paid ads that we ran. So in fact, like we were running 10K plus a day on advertising, specifically on Instagram, Twitter, different places. And I can give a strategy to your folks if they want to do this even right now, what works right now. But in the past, that's what it was. We would literally build a community. So we would get people excited to go to this landing page where people would learn about the utilities of the project, see who the team members of the projects were, and then what the art looked like. Really, those were the biggest things back then. Things, again, have changed, and I can tell you what's new, but that's what it was. And then people would go to to join a Discord. Again, back in the day, there weren't that many Discord servers. So when people would join a Discord, they would actually participate in your Discord servers as well. Now, everyone is part of at least 30 Discord servers. So, and they're all muting their Discord servers. So you can't just do that and it's, rely on that alone.
Discord. So we need to define Discord for people who don't know. Discord is an online discussion board. It's basically an app, very useful, very raw, relatively primitive, but it does the job. It's an online discussion board.
Yeah, and actually even for Discord, so it has I believe it has a limit of 250K, and we hit it for one of the projects. And that also needs to go through a change. So as the industry is changing and like a lot of people joining different Discord servers, that's got to change as well. And actually one of the projects recently, like Goblin Town, they launched their project without a Discord just because they realized there's just no point. Just so many people have
when one launches a project without a Discord, how do you? Okay, so a key thing about NFTs, right, is to get on the launch list, and Discord is basically the launch list. I read somewhere that 70% of the profits made in any NFT project basically go to the people who are the early buyers in the launch list.
Yeah,
the white list. But if people who are not on this white list, or in scenarios like this one where they are not using Discord, what are they using? How are they staying connected with the potential buyers?
Yeah, exactly. So that's actually interesting because that happened with another brand, OKBirds, as well. So I believe it was either OKBirds or the other one, the no OKBirds, but they didn't have a Discord, and so people just didn't have a place to talk, which is what they're used to, especially the NFT savvy folks. And then so they started actually doing Twitter Spaces. So people don't know what Twitter Spaces are, just like Facebook Lives, that as you see since 2009. So there's an audio version of the I guess those live streaming. So people just got into these. So the community themselves, not even hosted by the actual founders of the communities. So the community themselves, they actually got into these Twitter Spaces. One of them for No OK Bears, I remember like they actually hosted a Twitter space for about 3 days in a row. So they wouldn't sleep. They would just talk on this Twitter space nonstop, right? And so this is just a level of, I guess, camaraderie that they were creating for themselves, and then just getting themselves excited about the project. So again, just to go back to your question, so in the past, it was 3 to 5 times number of collection size on Discord that you would create. You would actually make it with paid ads and influencer marketing. And again, influencers back then were very helpful too, because there weren't as many projects, versus now, because there's so many projects. Let's say find an influencer and talk about 10 projects this month and then 10 projects next month. At some point you'd be like, okay, so which project do you want me to invest in? Because there's so many projects. So so back in the day it was paid ads, paid influencers. Now that has changed to really mostly focus on paid ads and PR. So and PR being like a publication, so like tier 1, tier 2 publications. So that's really what's really working right now. Of course, there are other things like collaborations, so on and so forth as well that people do. But those are the two things that are mainly what I use for actually building communities. And then as far as how people making money if they're not whitelisted. So the Goblin Town specifically, their NFTs were actually free. So all you had to do was just to pay for the gas to actually get in. And then it's really interesting because again, this is a very different type of narrative that they created, which is very important now. It wasn't important back then. Right now, the narrative, the story behind your project, why you got into this, why you're doing what you're doing in this industry, those are very important things.